happiness is an activity of the soul in conformity with virtue, and if there are several, with the highest and most complete in a complete life. I think that's interesting to think about today, because a lot of people have different definitions of what happiness is, and it's maybe someone will think, if I just get this job, then I'll be happy. Like, it's just this end, seems to be different to what Aristotle is saying. He also talks about habitual virtuous actions. It's sort of a habit, and once you're in this habit, you enjoy being virtuous, and that's similar to what he thinks happiness is.
He doesn't think that happiness is an end or something that
Yeah.
you can get and be done with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an activity. You have
Yeah.
to constantly be doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in conformity with virtue. And the whole point of virtue is that you can gain virtuous characteristics by acting
Mm-hmm.
virtuously, get virtue, and then to have the characteristics, you can look at having those as an end. But then is that what gets you happiness?
This also has something to do with a man's proper function, which is in conformity with the rational principle. So it's something to do with reason as well. Or do you have any ideas of how he is using the rational principle?
Into other parts of it, but that he talks about later, but that it's possible using your mind in order to know how to, like you were saying, upkeep the virtues, and then to upkeep them. So that's why I think the part where you're talking about with the, it's like character. So like you build your own character, you're not born with your own character. You have to build it and maintain it. And part of that is acting rationally in the right scenario, in the right way, in the right time, in the right place. So knowing how to be virtuous isn't just rules.
So then you're using your rational principle to determine what virtue is, or what you think is virtuous.
In a particular situation. And that's why it's not a rule, because it's so dependent on context.
And then you can act habitually to gain these virtuous characteristics by acting habitually virtuous. And then you kind of have to keep on doing that to obtain happiness.
Aristotle also mentions the man of high moral standards, based off the idea that not everybody has the ability to use their rational principle to determine accurately what virtuous actions are.
Very controversial
That's a
question.
big question.
But yes, that comes into sort of moral luck. So how in a scenario, depending on where you're born, depending on your own personal qualities, it's a certain equality part of it, that it's most people can do this. And it might be contextual based on a particular person and how they're virtuous.